There's a scene early in Age of Ultron where the Avengers are at a party. Just Earth's mightiest heroes sitting in a room together, drinking, laughing, and taking turns trying to lift Thor's hammer. And it's the most human scene the Avengers have ever had in the MCU. We get to see these characters in their original forms, some before Marvel gradually sanded away the traits that made them unique. Not just who they were when they were introduced, but how the events of the previous films had shaped them up to this point. Not because anything important happens, yet, but because for about 4 minutes, these characters feel like people. Tony is loud and competitive. Steve is quietly amused. Thor is still arrogant, but in a subtle way.
You're all not worthy.
Natasha doesn't even try. Banner is very self-conscious. And when Cap nudges the hammer slightly, just slightly, Thor's smile disappears for half a second, something we won't see more of for another 4 years. The writing, humor, and overall tone of this movie aged so beautifully that I wish we could scrap Doctor Doom and bring Ultron back, while reducing the stakes once more. Because somewhere along the way, the MCU forgot how to do this. When Age of Ultron released in 2015, audiences didn't hate it, but they were quietly disappointed. It made over $1 billion and still left people feeling like something was missing. And I think I know what happened. People walked in expecting Avengers 1. The first Avengers film is essentially a greatest hits album. Everyone gets a moment. There's a giant battle. The team comes together for the first time.
It was perfect.
It's a spectacle film, and it delivers spectacle perfectly. They were intimate moments, but it all gets drowned up in the third act. Age of Ultron is not that film. Joss Whedon said it himself. He wanted the sequel to be smaller, more personal, more painful. Not a rehash of what worked the first time.
Usually works.
All performance issues,
So when audiences sat down expecting the same energy, what they got instead was arguments at a farmhouse, a party scene, and characters talking about their feelings.
Well, home is home, you know?
And they called it underwhelming. I won't pretend the film had no flaws. There are plot holes, some rushed storylines, and Ultron is lesser than his source material. But underwhelming is not the same as uninteresting. And 10 years later, with the benefit of distance, it's becoming very clear which aged better, the spectacle or the people. What makes Age of Ultron's writing special isn't that it's clever. It's that the characters have opinions. This sounds like a low bar. It isn't. Watch a mid-era MCU film and notice how often the dialogue exists purely to move the plot forward. Characters explain things. They quip about things. But they rarely just think out loud in a way that tells you who they are. Age of Ultron does this constantly. It makes the characters talk to each other, not at each other. Tony takes his time convincing Banner to build Ultron as a direct reaction to the fear he felt in the scene before. In that conversation, you can already see how Ultron's ideology is formed. The anxiety, the desperation, the need to protect at any cost.
Piece of our time.
And even the small details land. When Banner mentions that Tony wants to do this without telling the team, Natasha walks past in the background. That's not a coincidence. That's filmmaking. The next conversation is the entire team at the party, treated like humans for once. Good humor, genuine warmth, and a quiet peek into where each of their heads is at that moment. Then comes the log chopping scene. Tony and Steve are splitting wood outside Barton's farmhouse, talking about the future. You can see it in the physical act of it, the difference in their piles.
Don't take from my pile.
But this statement doesn't undercut the conversation they just had. Tony says he wants to build a suit of armor around the world. Steve pushes back. And in about 90 seconds, you understand everything about the tension between these two men. Not because the script tells you, but because of how they disagree. Tony believes that with the right tools and the right planning, you can solve any problem without sacrifice. Steve believes that some things can only be done by a person willing to take the fall. Neither of them is entirely wrong. And neither of them can fully hear the other. That conversation is Civil War before Civil War had a title. And the film even stages a mini version of it. Tony, Banner, and Hawkeye on one side, Cap, Wanda, and Pietro on the other, fighting over whether to activate Vision. Then Thor walks in without asking anyone's permission and settles it himself. Because he's a god operating among mortals, and in his mind, he doesn't need to ask. Cap even has to point it out to Tony, because Thor's arrogance never fully went away. And the humor works for the same reason. The jokes in this film come from character, not situation. When Thor casually defends Asgardian drinking culture with complete sincerity, that's a Thor joke. The comedy emerges from these people being themselves in the same room together. It doesn't feel written. It feels like overhearing something. That's rare. And the MCU has mostly stopped doing it. Before we get into the main argument, I should mention that I've done individual in-depth videos on a lot of the characters we'll be talking about today. Ultron, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Natasha, and several others like Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom. If you want to go deeper on any of them, the playlist is linked below. And I'm currently working on a Steve Rogers video, so if you enjoy what we're doing here, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it when it drops. Now, let's get into it. Let's start at the party. The Avengers have just raided a Hydra facility, recovered Loki's scepter, and done what they do best. So now they're celebrating, and what Whedon does with this scene is so simple it's almost invisible. He just lets them exist. It's pretty much the awkward dinner you have with your colleagues after closing a major deal. There's a subtle scene of Steve's old comrades, those veterans, and his conversation with Sam that shows how much he misses home.
Brooklyn yet?
I don't think I can afford a place in Brooklyn.
Well, home is home, you know?
There's a scene where Rhodey tells Thor and Tony a joke about one of his great adventures. He's met with a completely bland response.
Boom. Are you looking? Why do I even talk to you guys? Everywhere else that story kills.
That's the whole story?
But when Rhodey tells that same joke to regular people, he gets the applause he was looking for. They've clearly seen much worse to be impressed by a tank. Even the humor doesn't betray the characters for a second. Tony and Thor's ego contest over whose girlfriend is better makes perfect sense. They are still both arrogant men.
And the company that Pepper runs is the largest tech conglomerate on Earth. It's pretty exciting.
There's even talk of Jane getting a Nobel Prize.
Thor casually handing Steve Asgardian rum shows the respect he already had for him, and explains why he wasn't surprised when Steve lifted the hammer in Endgame. He always knew he could handle it. Now to the hammer contest. One by one they try. Each attempt tells you exactly who that character is without a single line of dialogue. When it gets to Tony's turn, he says he'll reinstate Prima Nocta.
We'll be reinstituting Prima Nocta.
A historical myth claiming lords had the right to sleep with any woman on her wedding night. Then the humor. In this scene, it doesn't come from the jokes. It comes from the people. When Thor explains that no one can lift the hammer because they are all unworthy, he means it completely. There is no irony in his voice. He is a god, and this is simply a fact. That's funny because it's Thor being Thor, not because someone wrote a punchline. This is the Avengers at their most alive, and the film knows it, because everything that comes after this scene is about watching that aliveness get threatened. Then Ultron arrives. The conversation that follows, the team trying to understand what just happened, what Tony did, what it means, is where the fracture begins. But what's interesting is how each character processes it differently. Tony deflects with humor, because that's what Tony does when he's cornered.
You think this is funny?
No. It's probably not.
Steve goes quiet in a way that's more dangerous than anger. Banner looks like a man who already knew this was coming and tries to deflate the situation.
Maybe this might not be the time.
Really? That's it. You just roll over, show your belly every time somebody snarls.
Only when I've created a murder bot.
Clint looks like he wants to go home at that moment. Thor demands an explanation from the person he sees as responsible. Natasha watches all of them. This is the same group of people from the party scene 4 minutes earlier. Same faces, same room. But the lightness is completely gone. And you feel the loss of it because Whedon made you fall in love with it first. That's intentional. The party wasn't just a fun scene. It was the before picture. And then we get the nightmares. Each vision is specific. Natasha sees the place she was made, the thing that was done to her before she had any say in who she would become. And this tiny scene beats the Black Widow movie in every way. Tony sees the people he couldn't save. Steve sees the home he lost, the dance he never got to have, the life that was taken from him, not by a villain, but by time. These are not action sequences. They are confessions. And when the team retreats to Barton's farmhouse, something quietly extraordinary happens. The film slows down completely. No villain, no countdown, no stakes. Just people in a house trying to hold themselves together. Clint, the most underestimated Avenger since the beginning, sits with his pregnant wife in their kitchen and is just a man. A tired man who loves his family and keeps showing up anyway. There's a moment where he talks to Wanda during the final battle, when she's frozen with fear. And he says, "You step out that door, you are an Avenger." It's not a speech. It's one exhausted person reminding another that they made a choice, and it still counts. That line works because of the farmhouse, because we saw who Clint is when nothing is required of him. And then there's Ultron,
I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to take this time to explain my evil plan.
Ultron is what happens when you take intelligence and remove empathy. He understands humans perfectly, their history, their patterns, their failures, and that understanding made him despise them. His dialogue is sharp, funny, and deeply unsettling precisely because it sounds so reasonable.
Everyone creates the thing they dread. Men of peace create engines of war. Invaders create Avengers. People create smaller people. Children. I lost the word.
He doesn't explain. He rants. And somewhere in that ranting is the terrible logic of someone who looked at humanity clearly and drew the wrong conclusion. This makes him more human than anyone else in the film, driven by the deeply human flaw of someone who understood survival in a world that never stopped choosing war, which makes his final conversation with Vision so important. Vision looks at the same species Ultron examined and arrives somewhere completely different. He says he respects humans, not despite their chaos and contradiction, but because of it. Because a thing that knows it will end and keeps going anyway, that keeps building and loving and trying, is not a failed experiment. It's something worth protecting. Ultron sees what humanity is. Vision sees what humanity means. And that gap between information and understanding, between intelligence and wisdom, is what this entire film is really about. It's what makes Age of Ultron the most human Avengers film. Not because it has the best action or the highest stakes, but because it actually stopped to ask the question, what does it mean to be human? And is that worth saving? The Avengers' answer, imperfect and exhausted and still standing, is yes. Spectacle ages quickly. The biggest battle scene from 10 years ago always looks a little smaller today. The CGI softens. The stakes feel distant. What was once breathtaking becomes familiar. But people don't age that way. A scene of two friends chopping wood and disagreeing about the future doesn't lose anything with time. A tired man reminding a scared girl that her choice still counts. That's timeless. Age of Ultron aged like fine wine not because of its foreshadowing or its plot mechanics. It aged well because it was, at its core, a film about human beings. Flawed, tired, scared human beings who happened to save the world on the side. And that's the kind of film that stays with you. Additionally, this film stands out as one of the most visually stunning movies in the MCU's history. It features a unique color grading that really makes it pop compared to other Avengers films. Age of Ultron features a vibrant and stylish color palette, creating a captivating visual experience. The film's unique look combines a teal and orange cinematic style, with cinematographer Ben Davis using geographic color shifts, cool blue tones in cityscapes and warm yellow-golden hues in African scenes to beautifully set the mood. Honestly, this film was quite underrated. Plus, it has that classic hero's suit-up scene everyone loves.
Get what you need.
Perfect. Everything, down to...
Like I said before, if you want to go deeper on any of the characters we talked about today, Tony, Bruce, Natasha, Ultron, the individual videos are all on the channel. Each one goes further into who these people actually are and why they matter. And if this video convinced you that Steve Rogers deserves the same treatment, that video is coming. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Age of Ultron isn't a perfect film, but it understood something the MCU has been struggling to remember ever since. The most powerful thing you can put on screen isn't a hero at their strongest. It's a person at their most human.